nerds, what's up? Today we're going to be discussing my January wrap-up for 2018. I've done so well this month. I'm already ahead of schedule for my yearly Goodreads challenge, and I'm really excited about that because sometimes I fall off the wagon in the middle, and I'm hoping that if I keep going strong in the beginning of the year, then if I slump later, I'll have caught up by then. So let's just get right on into this wrap-up. The first book of 2018 was Because You Love to Hate Me, which is edited by Amory and has, as we should all know by now, a bunch of booktubers, a bunch of authors. It is a series of short stories in it, and yes, I think I gave this book about a 3.5, 4 out of 5 stars. It was definitely enjoyable, but as per usual with a series of short stories, some stories are just not as good as others. Victoria Schwab's story with Jessie the Reader's prompt was definitely my favorite. I personally I think Jessie's prompt and like story that he gives, not story, but like reasoning for why he chose what he chose was so like emotional that I think that that's what made Victoria Schwab's story even better after reading it, because the story comes first and then you get the booktuber's point of view on why they chose what they chose, and I absolutely loved that. That was my favorite one. My second favorite one was probably Adam Silvera's story that Katrina from Little Book Owl chose the prompt for. Had something to do with a crime lord, and it was a female crime lord, and that was really fun. I really enjoyed it, and you kind of like are reading that story and hoping that the outcome won't be what you know it will be. And lastly, the one that I have to mention is the very last one, and that one was written by Nicola Yoon, and the booktuber that did the thing was Kat Kennedy, which is Cuddlebuggery, and oh my god, theirs was so good. It was so creepy. It was about a child, what I assume is a sociopath. Ooh, it was good. That one was my favorite. I mean, I don't know, they all kind of are my favorite, but that one, it was a great ending to this story. The other ones were good, don't get me wrong, but just, they didn't stand out the same way. So that was my first book of 2018. Next book I read was actually a book I started on audiobook, The Gentleman's Guide to Vice and Virtue by Mackenzie Lee. This was a 5 out of 5 stars for me. Monty is definitely not the most likable character from the beginning, and I just really loved watching his character develop into somebody more likable. That was really fun for me, and the only thing I found annoying, so maybe it's a 4 out of 5 stars, is that the arc of the love part was so frustrating, because if everyone would just learn to communicate their feelings, we wouldn't have had an issue. Next book I picked up was Strange the Dreamer by Laini Taylor. This is the January Sassy Book Club book. If it already happened, then you can definitely go watch it. It'll be on my channel, but oh my god, I loved this book so much. It was so good. 5 out of 5 stars. It's definitely my favorite read. I do recommend reading this book in physical version or ebook version, but not audio. I tried to listen to the audio first, and I could not pay attention. I had to start the audio over like 3 times, and then I finally gave up and finally picked it up. I got it from the library first, and I loved it so much that I bought myself a hard copy, and I'm pretty sure I'm gonna buy myself the UK version too, because it's gorgeous, and it's so good. Moving on, the next book I read was Attachments by Rainbow Rowell. I got this book from the library, but I've already sent it back, so I don't have it anymore to show you. But this is an adult novel by Rainbow Rowell. I'm sure a lot of you know what this story is about, but it is about these 2 women who work together in an office, and they are sending emails to each other about their everyday, personal lives. And there's this man who, at this same office job, his job is to make sure that people are only using their emails for professional appropriate conversation. So he is supposed to be flagging these 2 women and their conversations and telling them to stop, but he just really enjoys their conversation, and he kind of ends up never warning them and just keeps reading them, and things ensue from there, and it was so cute, and I think I gave it a 4 out of 5 stars. But I'm guessing because Goodreads isn't showing me my ratings. They show up here. So I gave The Gentleman's Guide to Vice and Virtue a 4 out of 5 stars as well. And I gave Attachments also a 4 out of 5 stars. So, moving on, the next book I picked up was a non-fiction book called Fucked Being Sexually Explorative and Self-Confident in a World That's Screwed by Corinne Fisher and Christina Hutchinson. These two ladies also own a podcast called Guys We Fucked, and they started this podcast off because Corinne got dumped at a Panera by her long-term boyfriend and needed to be able to vent about it, and she wanted to start this podcast to interview everyone that one of them had had sex with in the past. And that's how this podcast got started. Now they do a lot of interviews with a bunch of different type of people, like sex workers. They've had an interview with a pimp. They've had interviews with all sorts of people, along with the people that they've also had sex with. And this book was essentially a written version of their podcast, and I don't have it because I let my friend borrow it. It does have a trigger warning for conversations about sexual assault and rape, because there's a whole entire chapter focused on stuff like that. And it also talks about being self-confident in individual pieces, like parts of your body, as well as just in general. It talks about relationships. It talks about how to talk to your partner about sex and what you want or what you don't want and all that stuff. And oh my god, it's so important, and it was so good. If you didn't know, the Bibliothon just happened. It is a week-long readathon where you have 7 video challenges and 7 reading challenges. I didn't host this time around, but I'll be back for the summer. And I just posted a reading vlog for this week, so I'm just going to go through these really quickly. The first book I picked up for the Biannual Bibliothon was Tales of Beat the Bard by J.K. Rowling, which was technically additional notes by Albus Dumbledore. All of the stories in this book are really cute. I gave it a 4 out of 5 stars because even though it is really cute, it's like, I always want it to be more than it is, I think. Like, I always want to be more emotionally attached to these stories, and I'm just, it's like, it's fine. Otherworld by Jason Segel and Kirsten Miller. This was a 3 stars for me. This was our group book for the Biannual Bibliothon, and I was actually in the live show, so I can link that down below or in the cards if you would like to go watch it. But I enjoyed this story. I did find a lot of the world building really unique and individual and new, but I found most of the plot twists and stuff like that very predictable, and so that was kind of why I thought it was enjoyable, but I didn't think it was that freaking amazing. This book is also pretty raunchy. Like, you can definitely hear Jason Segel's comedy in this, and I really did enjoy that part. The book I read was on audio, and I read Renegades by Marissa Meyer. This is our Bibliobook Club book for October through January, so we will be having a live show for this one coming up in February. And so if you don't know what this is, we do a quarterly book club with the Bibliothon girls, and then we live show about it on the Bibliothon channel, and I'm a part of that, of course. And I gave this book a 5 out of 5 stars. It was so good. Marissa Meyer does so well with very action-packed scenes. I really enjoyed it, and it makes me want to try to pick up Cinder again because I still haven't read that series. But this story is about a girl named Nova who, when she was really young, her family was murdered by a bunch of gang members, and in this world there are villains and renegades who both have superpowers, but villains are the bad ones and renegades are the good ones. And her uncle was a villain, and so she hates the renegades as she grows up, and she ends up having to infiltrate the renegades, and that's kind of all that I'm going to say because it's really good. It's dual perspective from Nova and a boy named Adrian who grew up in the Renegades. His family are renegades. He's a renegade. He has special powers too. And that's all I'm gonna say. It was so good. Impulse by Ellen Hopkins. It's such a sad copy of a book, but I got this book for like 50 cents from a used bookstore, and it was already ripped up, and I just don't care because it was basically free. And I gave this book a 4 out of 5 stars. This Ellen Hopkins writes in verse, if you didn't know. So it looks like a chunky book, but it was a really quick read as per usual. This book follows 3 characters in all of their perspectives, and there's Tony, Connor, and Vanessa. All 3 of them attempted to commit suicide and did not succeed in that, and so they are in a mental hospital institution. What's the correct terminology for these things? I'm not sure. And they all get to know each other, and they all are working towards getting healthy and not being depressed and all of those things. And it's really good. You get a lot of different perspectives. There are things in here that are kind of not great on the representation train for being gay, but I was able to look past that most of the time. I did find it particularly annoying towards the end of the book. So that is something that I do have to say about this, and probably mainly what knocked off the star. The other thing that I found a little bit annoying is the way that the love story that's not very prominent in the story, I found it not very healthy, and even though it's probably realistic that it wasn't healthy, it still kind of bothered me. So that was that. Those are all the books I read in the month of January, unless I get one more done, but it'll be in the February wrap up. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Give it a thumbs up if you did. Comment down below what was your favorite book you read this month. Please also tell me if you either are going to join my Sassy Book Club. Check out my down bar has my Sassy Book Club Twitter, and it has the Goodreads page, and it also has what book we're reading for February and maybe the host. So yes, I will see you guys very soon with a new video. Bye! Okay, tell these off here.